Hello, Paul. Really glad to see you here. We will be talking today about the AI from the entrepreneurial perspective because you are the founder of an AI startup. So I will be very curious to hear about your experience, I think, as all of us, about your path, about your mistakes, problems you faced, and so on. Let's begin. Can you please tell us about yourself and how you came to the AI sphere?
Yeah, of course. First, thanks for the invitation. I started using AI for my e-commerce business. So before creating my AI startup and my Twitter account, etc., I was doing some e-commerce stuff like different stores, mainly drop shipping, in fact. So I order my products with Chinese suppliers, and so it was a very interesting business. And at some point, I was looking for automate some tasks to create my website with a more efficient way. And my main traffic source at the moment was SEO, so search engine optimization. And when you do some SEO, you have to create a lot of different content for your product description, for example, for your blog post, etc., etc. And at this point, so it was 2022, early 2022, I discovered AI like magic because I can literally generate my content. They're very personalized stuff. That's why I start using AI to generate my product description, generate my blog post. And after all of this, of course, I dig deeper and deeper. And
Which tool have you used during that time?
Oh, first of all, it was the OpenAI playground. Today, everybody knows ChatGPT, of course, but before that, ChatGPT, and you can use it today, has a playground, which is literally a way to test their models. So you can, for example, type the first words and click on complete, and the AI will just write the next thing. So that was the first tool I used. And after that, for my e-commerce business, I was looking for something more handy, more practical to use, in fact. And at this time, one of the main competitors was Jasper AI and Copy AI. And so I use Copy AI because some free credits you can use. So I was testing with this tool. I was very surprised. Maybe at this time it was like GPT-3 model, something like this. And yeah, so Copy AI was the first.
Did I get you right? You was using it for filling your product descriptions using the AI tool, correct?
Exactly. Because when you're doing some SEO stuff, especially for e-commerce, you have to write many different product descriptions. So I just provided like some bullet points of the characteristics of my products, and Copy AI was just writing the entire description, which was just huge competitive advantage. Because like for writing product description, like 100 product description before, it was saying like weeks of work. Okay. And then
Yes, weeks was.
yeah, it was terrible.
So after the e-commerce, what was your next steps into the AI sphere?
After that, I was doing some no-code tools. I was using no-code tools, and I was amazed by the ability to create some startups, some SaaS products using no-code tools. Because I'm not like a developer, software engineer, or whatever. I'm more like, I like create things, okay? But not spending too much time on the technical part, in fact. So I created my first AI startup very quickly using Adalo, which is a powerful no-code tool, which allows you basically to create mobile apps, but also web apps using no-code. And you can plug this type of tool into OpenAI API to create some very useful tools. So the first one was Answera. And yeah, so that's what it was, something like just 2 weeks after I discovered AI, in fact, because I went, okay, this is a huge opportunity and can help companies to answer their email much quicker. I just jumped.
Unbelievable. So then you launched your first AI startup, which is actually currently exists. How did you find your first clients?
That's interesting. It was on LinkedIn first, of course, because Answera was more like a B2B SaaS product. I just thought,
By the way, can you please describe it in a bit more details? Because
Yeah.
I read about it, but our listeners or watchers cannot. Let's describe a
course.
bit about the product.
of course. Answera basically is also a web app you can use on your web browser. And I was an e-commerce store owner. And one of my main pain points was the customer support, the email customer support, because it takes so much time to answer all of your customer support emails. So I created Answera to copy paste basically your customer email. You just write few words, click on generate, and you have a full generated email by AI. So you can divide your customer email support time by 2 or 3. So it was very handy. Of course, now you have Gmail AI, Outlook Copilot, or this type of things. But 1 year ago, it was like, wow, it's a huge time save.
What about today? Definitely the market is evolving. Competitors are emerging, like hundreds of competitors, to be honest, thousands maybe. How do you cope with this? What is your like mid-term strategy, long-term strategy?
The main point is to focus on a specific niche. First, for me, it was e-commerce store owner. I will just keep to optimize my AI startup to answer these specific needs. It's probably the most clever things to do for all of the AI startup. You have to meet a specific needs. I know personally the specific pain points, so I can answer the needs Google or Microsoft can't.
It's a very good advice because I think a lot of us are like facing so many opportunities that is really hard to niche down. So your idea that we have to begin with the niche which we understand perfectly well, like either we know the pain points or we have been dealing with that, correct?
Exactly. Yeah, that's it.
Amazing. Okay, and second question, which is one of my favorite actually, what was the main obstacles which you faced on the process of building your startups? What's main failures, what main fuck-ups was during this process, and how do you handle that?
Interesting, very interesting. And maybe one of the hardest parts was, so even if you use no-code tools, at some point you have to write some code. Because, for example, when you have to connect your no-code tool to the OpenAI API to use, let's say, the ChatGPT power to simplify things, you have to write some basic code to connect with this type of thing. And I'm not a software engineer, I'm not a developer. So I went, okay, how can I write this code basically? And so at this time, GPT-4 didn't exist, but I tried to use AI to code this part of stuff. It was a solution, in fact, to use AI to build my AI startup. And it takes some time.
Amazing. But which solution have you used for that?
At this time, it was like the playground of OpenAI. Okay, I explained my problem to the playground and generate so much different things. My prompt was not optimized at all. It took like hours and hours to in fact to generate this code, but it works like a charm now, fortunately.
Absolutely. Okay, and what about the main fuck-ups? Because I believe that our mistakes, failures during the build of the business is actually the things which teach us how to become better and actually help us to achieve much higher results. What was your 2-3 main fuck-ups during the process?
Probably the main one, I was thinking, because it was my first startup, basically, I was thinking, okay, I will build an amazing product and everybody will want my product, of course. Huge mistake. I was associated with a guy, which is a very clever guy in marketing stuff, all of this. But the thing is, in my opinion, you have to first build a community before building something good. So for Answera, for example, I should build a community on LinkedIn because you have a huge amount of professional. So it was probably the main mistake. And the second one, more technical one, to be honest. But one of the biggest downside of no-code tools is the database. For example, if your no-code tool is very popular, your typer is very popular, we have to build it with code. So no-code is for MVP products mainly, okay? And you have to think about this before building your AI startup to be able to export your database to a new product if you rebuild it. So it was probably the two main things, the community and the database for your AI startup.
Amazing. Thank you very much for sharing. Actually, I think it's also very interesting to hear your path in the Twitter, because how many followers do you have right now?
Oh, something like 170, something like this.
170K, yeah. Can you tell you how did you get there? Have you been growing so fast, and what was the main reason of this pace? What do you think? What was the time frame of that?
So slowly, end of March 2023, actually.
End of March. Okay.
End of March. And I started to share my discoveries. I was very amazed. And I didn't know actually that AI was this kind of hot on Twitter, to be honest. I was very surprised to discover this. And so I'd like to share and to teach to people, in fact. So I was one of the first maybe in the AI space to create some tutorials in the threads format. So step 1, step 2, step 3 to do some things, to create things with AI. And this type of content was just so popular. And I was very lucky to meet some AI friends on Twitter that commented under my post to have some huge visibility very early. So I was very lucky.
So like right time, right place, plus right people, correct?
Exactly.
And also you was following your curiosity. It was not about making money or building the brand or trying to sell something. You was just sharing your experiences, correct?
Correct. To be honest, I was like, okay, I will try to create a Twitter account, and maybe in 2, 3, 4 years, it will be a side business or something like this, and expected nothing at this point.
I think it's a really good point to begin with. If you do not expect anything to happen, you'll be fine with it. But if you will expect to grow it like 100K within a month, you'll be very disappointed. So I think it's a very good point to begin with. To start with your curiosity, try to share it with the people, try to help them to solve the same problem actually you were solving by yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. The point is, yeah, if you have something you want to do, just do it, and maybe it will work, maybe not. Don't care, in fact. But don't put too much expectations on a side business or hobby project. And if you're lucky, it will just blow up, and maybe not. You can say.
By the way, we was discussing with a lot of founders about one very interesting point. When you begin the business, what do you think? What is the right approach? To try to find your passion or something you love, or start doing things, learn them deeper, and then maybe the passion will come. So it's two different approaches. Which one is more suitable for you?
That's a good question, actually. And we discussed a lot with my friends about that. And to be honest, I'm the type of person who want to test many things, maybe too much, to be honest. But the point is, even if you like what you're doing, at some point you have to do some tasks that you're not very amazed, right? Okay. For example, I'm very passionate about e-commerce, creating websites and automate the creation of websites, but I don't like to do like the customer support things. That's it. You have to deal with it. In my opinion, you have to test many things, and when you have when you fit with a business model, just automate the parts you don't like and enjoy the process. That's the most important thing. Enjoy the process before I wanted to do a lot of money, in my opinion.
Well, it really resonates a lot with me as well. Enjoy the process, because the process is the most important part. I would like to ask you, which AI applications and models do you use most frequently, and for which use cases, both in business side and in personal life?
So maybe it can be a surprise for a lot of people, but the tool I use the most is Bing Chat, actually, because it's the most versatile tool. In fact, you can do almost everything on Bing Chat that you can do in ChatGPT, that you can do on Bard, etc., etc. So basically, the Bing Chat is the main thing. It's replaced basically Google on my side. So I don't do Google search anymore, because when you type a request on Bing Chat, you can have just a huge summary of the whole internet pages. So that's a huge time saver, of course. So that's for my brainstorm part. I use Bing Chat in creative mode. For my research, I use Bing Chat just in normal mode. And so both on personal and professional. For more like specific tasks or coding or this type of things, I prefer to use GPT-4 on ChatGPT because it's the most powerful model currently. And Bing Chat is a little bit more search-oriented.
Paul, I have tiny questions here. In terms of ChatGPT, do you use code interpreter or a regular mode?
Oh, code interpreter is probably the thing I use the most, of course, because I can do the same thing on Bing Chat. If I have to analyze some data, analyze some PDFs, for example, as I'm not a developer, sometimes I have to write some small types of code, and I just drag and drop my code files into the code interpreter. So it's very handy.
Recently in our startup, we even put the Web3 smart contract there, and actually he did very well. He pointed out some issues. We needed to reduce the consumption of the tokens. So it's actually helped us. And I was like, come on, unbelievable. Yeah, sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's very interesting. And my friends who are doing e-commerce told me that, okay, I have a Shopify 10 and I want to edit it, but I don't know how, basically. And he just drag and drop the zip file, the entire zip file of the Shopify 10 into the code interpreter and do a lot of modification without knowing how to code. So much powerful.
Unbelievable, man. I didn't know that. You hacked it, actually. Anything else do you use regularly? It's like Bing plus ChatGPT and other apps, maybe?
But Windows Copilot is a huge thing, in my opinion. It's Bing Chat, but integrated into Windows, and you can interact in your settings directly. So yeah, Windows Copilot is a huge thing. And of course...
I'm sorry, Paul, is it already released?
Yeah, you have like a pre-version installed on my computer currently. Just below you, I have this little icon of Windows Copilot. Yeah.
Unbelievable. So they launched the beta version for testing?
Yeah, it's a general release, so everyone could install.
Okay. Thank you, Paul. Maybe some other POE or probably Perplexity. Have you tried them?
Yeah. Perplexity, I use it a lot on my phone. Because you can use Bing Chat on your phone too, but Perplexity is much faster to launch the app. The app is very light. It's very handy on phone and very powerful too, because on Perplexity, you can focus, for example, okay, you can say, I want only answers from Reddit or from this specific thing. And that's very interesting, for example, to get users' feedback or to discover new things. So that's how I use Perplexity on my side. Yeah.
Amazing, because I just found very interesting things with the Bing AI, because if you will try to ask it to rewrite it several times, on some point he will tell you, no, use our application. I was like, come on, what are you doing? You're just asking me to go to the competitors. Why are you doing that?
Bing has some limitation currently. For example, you can have only per chat. So that's one limitation compared to ChatGPT at least. That's for most of use cases and maintenance the group.
By the way, I also use 90% of time Bing as well, because it runs perfectly well mega prompts. It works very well with almost all the tasks which are needed, even with the rewrite, because it seems that ChatGPT is, well, either too many people are using it, so the general AI IQ went down, so the replies are very generic, and actually the Bing is doing much better.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe the two last I use the most is Canva and Microsoft Designers. Both have AI features integrated into it, and as a content creator, I have like videos or images to create every day, and these features are particularly handy for this type of task.
Really?
Create.
I've been using Midjourney.
Oh, Midjourney is a good thing, but Midjourney is more about photo generation. Using Canva and Microsoft Designer, you can add text, add some arrows, or all these type of things that you can't in Midjourney is
true. Thank you for sharing, Paul. And I would like to discuss with you the next topic is the future of AI. Let's discuss it. It's a big issue. And actually we was talking about it previously, but we was talking it privately. So I want to share ideas and insights also with all the people. So let's discuss about it. What is the current stage? Who are the main players? What do you think will change within few years? So where we move into in the terms of AI startups and AI in general. What do you think about it?
That's a huge question, of course, and absolutely. It's hard to answer because things are evolving very quickly in AI space. So basically, of course, we have the traditional GAFAM, which are big players currently. For example, Microsoft has a partnerships with OpenAI. Amazon, of course, has a partnership now with Anthropic, which is a very popular alternative to ChatGPT. It's like, for example, you have OpenAI, which produced ChatGPT, and you have Anthropic, which produced Claude. And
AI.
That's a powerful one too.
A lot of creators currently in the Twitter space thinks that Claude is even outperforming in ChatGPT in creative questions, like the clarity of the replies, and also 100K tokens.
Yeah. That's right. And I use Claude a lot. I didn't mention it before, but I use Claude a lot, especially for my first draft story of newsletter. So because it can understand the way I write and reproduce it. So that's very handy for the first draft of newsletter in my case. Of course, you have Google. So Google is probably one of the biggest players currently in the AI space with Bard, and we are looking forward for Gemini.
Absolutely, because it seems that current model is not working so well. Unfortunately, it can do tiny, small tasks very fast, but with the big ones, it's stuck. Like mega prompts, he do not understand completely. It's a bit slow.
Definitely. Bard is the Google ecosystem currently. So you can interact with your emails in Gmail, your docs in Google Docs, etc., etc. So that's a benefit. And if Bard achieve to integrate, let's say, a more performance model, can be a big player too. But currently, Bing Chat could be this is the main player in this search engine.
Especially with the recent release with the Windows, the PowerPoint can generate user slides. Outlook can find anything within the news, like letters, emails, whatever. So right now, what they release is huge and it's really powerful. So if Google will do at least the same, because I personally use much more frequently Google Docs, Google Slides, etc. Of course, it's not that powerful as the PowerPoint or Word or Excel, but it's much more convenient. So if the Google will do it correctly, I think they have all chances to win this competition. Plus, you absolutely correct, they have huge amount of data, terabytes of previous years of like search engine data, so they can fine tune it and use all the data to teach you the model.
Yeah, fully agree. And Google is scrapping the web for basically 25 years now. So
Unbelievable, by the way.
yeah,
Imagine it's been 25 damn years.
that's huge. Maybe Microsoft Copilot in Excel, PowerPoint, etc. will be very interesting for companies because a lot of companies are already using Office stuff, Microsoft 365, etc. For, let's say, B2C part, maybe Google can do something great. Definitely. We will see. Maybe at the end of this year with Gemini. But it will be very interesting. And in my opinion, one of the biggest players is the open source world. We have seen, for example, a few days ago, a new model, Mistral, which is a small AI model with, for, let's say, 7 billion parameters, outperforms some models with 70 billion parameters. So the open source world will be a huge player with a lot of different integrations. We have, for example, the example of Open Interpreter, which is basically command line things, and you can tell to your computer, okay, do these things, open this web page, and click on that button. You execute in natural language, and your computer will just do the thing. That's just a quick example, but
unbelievable, especially for the disabled people or for the blind person, for example. It's amazing because this model can do everything.
Absolutely
unbelievable. I haven't heard about it.
Absolutely. That's huge. And maybe it's close to Windows Copilot in a sense, because you can interact with voice using Windows Copilot too. That's pretty interesting, but all this open source world is more flexible because it's just a huge amount of people. It's not one company
can do this. Exactly.
Definitely. Any developers can be involved into the open source world, which is a huge power.
What do you think about Elon? Because as you remember, recently, a few months ago, he launched X.AI.
Yeah.
So what do you think about it? Because he was also talking about doing it in open source mode to help the humanity to grow. So it seems he will be also putting a lot of efforts into the open source model as well.
Yeah, definitely. And we tend to forget that Elon is the co-founder of Open.AI.
Absolutely true.
Which was open source.
Plus, he's also developing right now the robot, like the robot which will be helping at home.
Okay.
He developed one of the best autonomous cars. I think the possibility and the leverage which he can use in AI is tremendous. I think he will enter this space as well very soon. So I'm really curious about it. And probably X, the Twitter, will also evolve. Have no idea how. Curious to see.
Yeah, definitely. And Tesla currently is maybe the most important companies in the real life application of AI, with the robot, of course, but also the cars that can understand all the environment which is useful in the second mode.
And actually, all the companies are using AI in a very big portion of the operations. Like the spaceships are also rely a lot on the AI as well. Not fully autonomous, of course, but a lot is done by AI. And what do you think about the Apple? Because the guys it seems that they're behind the scenes, but they also was putting a lot of efforts into building their own chipsets and actually putting there the AI modules. So it seems that they will be doing something big there as well. What do you think about it?
Absolutely. People are thinking that Apple is far behind Microsoft and all the other companies. To be honest, I don't think so. And Apple will play different cards, in my opinion. Because as you said, Apple has this ARM chips, M1, M2, maybe M3 very soon. And this type of chips are able to manage a whole AI language model internally. So you don't have to make internet requests to interact with AI, which is very interesting for privacy purposes and also for companies, I think, because a lot of companies are say, okay, I don't want to use AI because I can't manage properly my data. I don't know where my data are going, so I prefer to use everything locally. And Apple can solve this problem using their chips and their powerful ecosystem too. And we have some clues that Apple internally are internally testing the kind of Apple GPT. And so, yeah, I have huge expectation for Apple, and I think it will be very interesting.
Unbelievable. Within a few years, it seems that the whole world, the whole competition will change dramatically. And I'm looking forward to it because the more competition, the better models are, the better experience we have from the consumer perspective and even from the entrepreneur's perspective. We have much more options, much more possibilities to build something new and something unique. So I'm looking forward to it. And let's proceed to the one more very interesting question, which I feel that it's not covered enough in the space of entrepreneurs. Let's talk about the burnout. Let's talk about handling the problems like being in the state of productivity, because we have a picture of an entrepreneur who is working 24 hours a day, always happy, always smiling, and so on and so forth. But of course, behind the scenes, there is a lot of problems, ups and downs, both in mood, in economics, in a lot of things. So let's begin with the burnout. How do you handle it? And what is your life hacks, maybe tricks? What do you do actually with that?
Yeah. Fortunately, I'm not subject to burnout, maybe because I'm young or because I'm too energetic. I don't know. But the thing is, I think you have to focus on your final goal, to be honest. Burnout, in my opinion, when I'm depressed for some reasons, is because you're focused too much on the short term. Okay, how can I do that? Or I'm not happy with this thing. If you're looking forward, okay, what's my biggest goal? Where I want to be in the next 5-10 years? You have to force you to project yourself, in fact. And for me personally, it's probably the most interesting and the most powerful thing to get out of this burnout, let's say burnout or depressed situation.
Thank you for sharing. And in terms of boosting your productivity or increasing your focus, what do you do? Maybe some applications you use, maybe some mental practices. So what do you do?
That's interesting. To be fully honest, when I need to really think about something, to be really focused, to brainstorm, I just put my phone, being set on it with a creative mode, walking on the street or even in my apartment, and brainstorm using AI. Okay, I ask a lot of questions to AI about this subject, this topic. And that's how new ideas come. That's how I solved many problems using this too, because using AI, you can thinking about things that 10 times with the power of your brain, because you have all the power of AI, internet inside your phone. That's how you can increase your brainstorming power and your productivity on my side, at least.
So you combining two things, walking plus AI. Because recently I was talking with the guys in the sphere of physiology, and they told me that during the walk, running, jogging, whatever, you cannot be distracted because this part of your brain is turned off because you're moving. It's very interesting, yes, because if you sit down, this part of your brain is active, so you can be distracted. But when you're walking, it's much harder to make more distraction for you because you already probably put some task for this part of the brain about the movement, so he has no other choices than to just proceed it. Let's proceed to several more questions, which I'm really curious to hear. First of all, which advice would you give to a smart-driven college student about to enter the real world and actually to enter the entrepreneurial path? And which advice should they ignore? Two parts of the question.
Okay, yeah. So first of all, don't wait to start active life. Don't wait to get out of your college or your studies to start being an entrepreneur, in fact. The first thing I started on my side, it was e-commerce things on eBay And it was during my studies because I want to test something new. And if you want to create something, if you have this kind of energy, don't wait. Don't wait oh yeah, I will do this when I have more time in 2 years. No. Start now, because it can be like very motivating to get your first results during your studies. So that's the first one. And ignore, of course, the easy answer is like being an entrepreneur, at least in France and in Western Europe. It's not different from the American perspective.
Not that sexy.
Yeah, definitely. When you talk about your project, you're say, are you sure about this? You really want to do that? Or you will lose money? Yeah, just ignore this. Test your things. If you're motivated, keep this motivation and transform it into something very productive and very maybe successful, maybe not, but you will learn a lot during your process.
I love it. One more thing. What are the bad recommendations you hear in your professional area or expertise?
That's a good one. To be honest. Let's say, okay, you will, during your process, during your learning process, during your entrepreneur journey, you will meet a lot of different people. Sometimes they have not the same views, the same perspective as you. Sometimes some people are into kind of scams, to be honest, because the only thing they want is money. It's something true in Web3 and Web2, doesn't matter. And so don't follow this kind of people, this kind of advice. So, okay, just do this thing, it's a one-time, huge amount of money, and after this, just forget about it. No, you have to focus on long-term and don't follow advice of people that are in this type of industries or this type of activities, which their only goal is to make a big amount of money one time, and that's not the type of thing you want to do, to be honest. Every entrepreneur, in fact, have an example of maybe friends, maybe some relationships, they know perspective, and that's not good at all, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I think I would add here a bit that it's very important to be surrounded by the people who share your values, your core values, because for me, also just to cheat somebody to get money is something which I couldn't accept at all. Yeah, it's because I was several times asked to do this kind of startups to help the guys with the promotion, etc. And of course, I will never do that because first of all, it's about the karma. I do believe in this. And second, it's about my own brand and my own personal name. And you build it as well. You have a huge amount of followers, have a lot of people who believe you. So you can waste it just with one wrong startups, with a one wrong thing.
Fully agree. Yeah, fully agree. The values is probably the most important thing. And every time, like, if you want to do one-time huge amount of money, it's short-term. It can be middle or long-term thing. And if you want to build a personal brand or something like this, I fully agree with you. You have to think twice before doing that thing.
Absolutely. I have several more questions, which might be very interesting for the people. Who are the best experts in the niche of AI? Whom do you follow, read, podcasts? Probably the people who you read and you recommend others to read as well. Some trendsetters, the guys who are looking deeper into the things. Which would you recommend in the field of AI, entrepreneurship, and these kind of things?
Mm-hmm. To be honest, I don't have one specific person because I like to take strong points and benefits of every people. For example, you have the very technical part with AI scientists, AI engineers. You can find these people on Twitter mainly. For example, one guy I love to listen to is Jan Leca, which is a very technical AI scientist at Meta. He's a very interesting guy. And on the other side, you have like more, let's say, mainstream people who are like AI teachers and AI news. Of course, you have like Rowan Chang. I hope I don't.
We will put it down, and in the description.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I listen Like you have many different examples, for example, of AI artists on X specifically because like my main source of information, to be honest, on AI is on Twitter. I don't watch so much YouTube videos on this topic or other things. So yeah, just dig into the Twitter space and AI space on Twitter and discover some cool AI artists, some news related accounts. And if you are more technical, you can definitely look at those type of guys, which are very specific and very interesting, that topic.
Thank you, Paul, for sharing. What books or book have you given more as a gift and why?
That's an interesting one too. If you're an entrepreneur, whatever you do, to be honest, the main thing is to be able to sell a product. Is to be good, at least the minimum at marketing, right? And in my opinion, the best book to, let's say, apprehend this human psychological part of marketing is Influence the Psychology of Persuasion by Robert Cialdini, which is a very interesting book to start understand human psychology. And this book was written to avoid people to be manipulated by marketing techniques, but you can definitely use it ethically to understand how human works, to be honest, and start to understand the basis of marketing. So if you have to read one book, please read this one. You won't be disappointed.
Thank you, Paul. I would like to ask several more questions. In the last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life?
Let's say it's discipline in general. For example, I know I have to write at least one post on Twitter. No matter what happens, I have to write. So it's not, let's say, specific habits or I work a specific way or I don't know. It's just you have to find a discipline and be able to understand what is very important for you and your business and do it every day, no matter what happens.
Like the one thing which mostly influence your business, personal brand, or something else, yeah? And do it no matter what.
Exactly. It's part of the Pareto law, in fact. The 80% thing, 20% thing. Like, just do this 20% things that will impact 80% of your life or your business. And it's good. For example, if I read one content per day, I know my business is growing. If I do only this thing, it's okay. I can do whatever I want during the day. It doesn't matter so much.
Paul, I have 2 more questions. What purchase of $100 or less has most positively impacted your life in the last 6 months or recent past?
Coffee machine. Okay, I'm joking. It's more than $100. Come on. Oh, yeah. Probably AI tools, to be honest. Like ChatGPT is, for example, is a $20 a month. You can do a better investment as ChatGPT.
I totally agree, sir. I would like to ask you a few questions from the perspective of the young entrepreneurs who are interested in joining the AI space as an entrepreneur, as the person who would like to build a personal brand. So what do you think they should focus on? What first steps should they take to succeed?
Yeah. So first of all, don't forget that AI is a tool. It's not like a goal. It's a tool for your current business or for an existing business or for the business you plan to start. So just try to analyze and diagnose what needs you have in your current business. And after this, just answer yourself, okay, what kind of tools of AI tool can I use? What AI influencers or what AI speakers should I follow to solve my specific needs for my business using AI? So that's one. And if you want to build a personal brand, which is a good thing, probably the best investment you can do on the internet currently, just look at what other people are doing currently in your specific niche. And again, focus not only on what works, on what is viral, but also match your current business, your current expectations, and don't be a fake person. Because it's probably one of the biggest mistake I see. It's okay. For example, I'm a big fan of Hormozy, so I want to create content like Hormozy. That's a mistake because you're not Hormozy, basically. I'm Paul Couvert, so I don't want to create some content like Hormozy. So, of course, you can take some inspiration, but don't copy the same type of content. Find your own path. That's the best thing you can do, actually.